Hi guys, this is Elisa with Fusion DIY. Welcome back to my channel. Look what I've got. I've got the latest edition of the Maker's Box from Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and I am so excited to break this thing open and get working on some projects. So let's take a look at what's in this pretty box. So when you get your box, it comes with a very sweet thank you card so that you can see what's in here. And it tells you all of the different things, the different products that are in here and their names. And I'm excited to break this open. So let's get going. Some beautiful paper from Recycled Treasures. And these coordinate, and that's the beauty of this whole box. Everything in the box goes together. So there's a beautiful picture from the painted photographer. That's beautiful. Look at this. Oh my gosh, how many of us love these Highland cows? Aren't they just adorable? I love it. This is beautiful as well. Another piece of decoupage paper. This is typically a pretty little thing that Sonnet adds in. There is a sample of milk paint, and I have used some of that milk paint and I absolutely love it. There are some DIY paints in here as well. If you haven't tried DIY paint, this is a perfect opportunity to try it. And there's also some Fusion mineral paint in here. And this one is Woodwick, and this one is, what is this? Seaside. So really beautiful. And then Sonnet typically adds a sweet little gift, which is a bracelet. And I'm going to open this and see what it says. I'm very excited about this. Can you guys see that? Have courage and create. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So I'm going to put that on. And we are going to get started working on some projects. So stick with me. For project 1, I'm taking a box that I had in my booth and I'm going to give it a makeover. It hadn't sold, and so I decided it was time to repurpose it. So the first thing I'm doing is sanding down the stencil that was on the top of the box, and then I went over it with a coat of white paint just to dull down the stencil a little bit. I then went over the entire box with a coat of crinoline from the DIY paint line. Once the paint was dry, I started to dry fit the decoupage paper onto the top of the box. And my initial plan was to just decoupage the top of the box and leave the rest of the box painted. But as I started to work on it, I decided that the box needed a little bit more embellishment than what I had initially planned. So you'll see that I am going to decoupage almost the whole box as I go through the video. Once the decoupage medium was dry, I went around the box and I sanded off the extra paper from the box to give that a nice clean edge. And you can see here just how clean that all comes off. I also painted the inside of the box to match the outside. So I gave it 2 coats of the same color crinoline on the inside of the box as well. Then I moved on to piecing the sides of the box. I did not decoupage the back of the box. I felt that in light of the fact that most of the time it would be sitting on a dresser, that it wasn't necessary, and I didn't want to have to work around the hinges. Once all the decoupage medium was dry, I took my X-Acto knife and I went around to cut the paper so that the box would open. And you can see here I'm using an X-Acto knife that wasn't terribly sharp, and so it kind of made some tears in the paper, but I did go back and fix that, and it was barely noticeable. Once all of the decoupage medium was dry on the box, I took some black wax and I went around all of the edges of the box because I wanted to give this more of a weathered look. I wanted it to look as though it had been used, and so the dark wax actually accomplished this really, really well. I love how this box turned out, and here it is in my booth. I did add a handle to the top, and I think it turned out great. What do you think? Please leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. For project 2, I picked up this live edge wood slice at a yard sale, and I have the perfect project for this pretty piece of wood. I gave this piece of wood one coat of crinoline on both sides, and then I went back to the masterboard decoupage paper that came in the creator's box, and I chose this very cute owl with a crown, and I'm going to decoupage him onto that piece of wood. This project was a very easy one, and it was fun to do, and it didn't take long at all. So it's just a testimony to the fact that if you have decoupage paper and you have some pieces of wood lying around the house that need to be used up, you can make yourself a very pretty piece of home decor by just adding a little bit of Mod Podge and decoupaging onto that piece of wood. Now, once the decoupage medium was dry, I went around and I sanded off the excess paper. And it was interesting because this is a live edge board, there was no clear edge that I could use to sand off the paper. So it was a little bit more challenging, but not hard. It just took a little bit of extra time, and I had to be careful so that I wouldn't sand off the pieces of bark. And here is the finished project in my booth. Project 3 was a set of stone coasters that I have had in my stash for quite a long time. A few weeks back, I had a video about a makeover of a side table, which was kind of manly looking, and so I very decidedly made it specifically for a man cave. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been making other pieces of home decor that could go onto that table. And this was another piece that I thought that I could put with that table in my booth, a set of 4 coasters. So what I did was I painted them, and then I gave it a coat of decoupage medium, and then I'm cutting down the edges of the paper, and I'm pulling the edges over to the back of the coaster. Once the decoupage medium dried, I went around the coaster and I sanded off that excess paper because I am going to put a piece of felt on the bottom of the coaster. So here you can see I have cut out a piece of black felt, and I'm taking some Titebond glue and I'm simply going over the back of the coaster, and I'm going to glue down that black piece of felt on the bottom. This would protect the table that I'm going to put them on. Any table that you put a stone coaster on, you run the risk of damaging the table, and I didn't want that to happen, and I wanted to give these more of a high-end look anyway, so I'm putting the felt on the back of the coaster, and I'm going to let that dry. And here's the finished project. This is the front and this is the back. I think they turned out great. What do you think? For the next project, I took a piece of glass from a picture frame and I traced around it, and then I cut this piece of the beautiful masterboard decoupage paper out, and I'm going to fit it into my frame just to make sure that it fits properly. I then took a piece of cardboard that matched the paper and I gave that also a coat of crinoline so that when I lay the paper down on the cardboard, the background will pop. Once I decoupaged my paper onto the board, I'm now going and taking a little bit of Titebond glue, and I'm going to lay down some of the Spanish moss that I had in my stash just to give this a little bit more interest. And then I took this cutout crow and I'm going to paint the crow black. Now these I picked up at 24 Hour Crafts, and I will put a link in the description box. Now I'm taking my crow and I'm going to glue the crow using some Titebond glue. I'm going to glue the crow so that it looks as though he's standing on top of a little bit of the Spanish moss with the background of the moon behind him. Then I reassembled everything and put the glass back in, and here it is in my booth, and I just love how this turned out. Crows have become so popular, and I think that this looks great. For my last project, I'm taking this board that I found at a yard sale and I'm cleaning it off. You have seen these boards before. They are the ones that typically have some sort of an award on paper that is put behind a piece of plexiglass and screwed in at the four corners. So what I did after I cleaned it was I filled in those holes from the screws, and I'm sanding off any excess joint compound which I used to fill in the holes. Once that was done, I gave the board a coat of white paint. Then I spread some decoupage medium on the center of the board where I'm going to put my piece of artwork. And this is the beautiful set of pumpkins that came in the maker's box. And this is paper that was created by Connie at The Painted Photographer. And I just love her artwork. This one in particular is just really beautiful. I mean, they were all beautiful, but this one I really love because I happen to absolutely love fall. Now, unfortunately, I did not get the footage of me painting the board to begin with, but I did use the milk paint in the color denim, and so I'm just going around the board now and I'm tapping with that milk paint, just giving the board a coat of the denim paint. Now, when it comes to blending, the thing that you have to remember is that this is a process. It is not something that you can do quickly. It takes time and it takes perseverance. And it also takes 3 brushes. The first brush is going to be the blue denim, the second brush is going to be the white, and the third brush that I have in my hand now is going to be the brush that is blending the two together. And typically you need to have a little bit of water near you so that you can take that blending brush, and what you want to do is eliminate the line, the distinct line between the white and the blue, and just blend them so that they almost seem seamless. And that's what I'm doing here. So the only thing that I can tell you guys is as you begin this process, Just know that it's going to take time, and just keep working it until you are satisfied with how it looks. So in this case, I let the paint dry overnight, and then I came back again, and there were more places that I wanted to change a little bit. So again, I'm going back with the milk paint and I'm tapping those edges, just trying to get more of a seamless look that I was going for. So as I said, a lot of water and a lot of patience, and you will get there. It's not something that you learn overnight, but here's the finished project. So what did you think of those projects? I enjoyed all of them, but I have to say my favorites were probably the crow picture and the pumpkins. Both were challenging and definitely took me out of my comfort zone, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to ask you to please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to my channel, and hit the notification bell so that each time I release another video, you'll be notified. And just as a reminder, if you are not a subscriber to the Maker's Box, you can subscribe by going on to www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com, and there you will find information about becoming a subscriber. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope that you have an awesome week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.